So I was just finessed into buying a pair of fake Kobe 10s, which was mostly my fault actually. And I'm just going to share my experiences so that you don't do the same thing. So recently I've been trying to get my hands on old Kobe shoes. So I've successfully got the Kobe 4, Kobe 5, and 9, and also the Kobe 11s. And I saw a deal on these, and unfortunately when I got them, they were outright fake. So there might be a couple of lessons learned from my experience. And here are a couple of tips that you should consider when you want to buy shoes, especially online, to avoid being finessed into buying fake shoes. So anyway, the first aspect that you need to take a look at is the seller reputation. You could take a look at the profile of the sellers, and you can also take a look at whether the reviews are positive or negative. You can also take a look at the other products that they sell. If they sell fake products, that should be an indicator that you should be careful with the seller, because it means that they can't really discern between the authentics and the fakes. So in my case, the seller has overwhelmingly good reviews. All, if not most, of the buyers gave the seller very good reviews. They also have a lot of followers, and I kind of let my guard down. So I just asked them whether the shoes were authentic or not, and they said that they were authentic. So I just skipped everything and just went on to buy these shoes. The second thing that you need to do when you get shoes, especially used shoes, especially online, is that you need to take a look at the pictures. You need to take a look at the images that the seller uploaded, and you compare them with images of the authentic sneakers. You need to really scrutinize them. You need to be very detailed. By doing that, you will be able to see whether the shoes that are being sold are fakes or authentic. Images of the authentics can be seen in the official website. You can also take a look at StockX as well. You can take a look at shoe review websites. You can take a look at goat.com and other reliable sources. And if needed, you can also ask the seller to send you more pictures, especially for parts that you think you need to look into more detail. So there are a couple of things that you can examine. You can examine the geometry of the shoe. You can take a look at the stitchings. You can take a look at the overall shape or silhouette. You can take a look at the position of the elements. Then you can also take a look at the color as well. You can take a look at the overall pattern of the shoe and compare it with the originals. You can take a look at the tint as well. Of course, the images will really depend on the lighting when the photographs were taken. They also depend on the quality of the camera. They also depend on the lenses that are being used and other factors. But nevertheless, you can get better understanding on the product that you're going to buy. So when you compare these guys with the authentics, it's quite clear that there are differences in the geometry of the shoe. The clearest difference is how the outsole here is positioned with the leather on the heel area here. So in the originals, the space between the outsole and the leather is probably around 5 millimeters or 0.5 centimeters. But on these fakes, the space between the two elements is around 1 to 2 centimeters. So the difference is quite clear in that aspect. So this alone should have been enough for me to pull out of the deal. But once again, it is what it is. And the second aspect is the color of these guys. The color patterns are totally different from the original colorway. In the fakes, the green is really bright, while in the authentics, the green on the outsole is a bit more subdued. But if you still bought them for some reason, you couldn't determine whether they are fake or authentic by looking at the images, you can check the product once they get to you. And for some online marketplaces, you have a facility to return the items that have been sold to you. And for marketplaces in Indonesia, for Tokopedia, for Shopee, for Bukalapak, you can also do that as well. So for buying these guys, I use Shopee, which is quite popular in Indonesia, and they have a facility to make a complaint if you have problems with the item that have been sold to you. But I chose not to do it because frankly, it's usually quite difficult. I just didn't want to go through the trouble, so I just finished the transaction and decided to use this as content for my channel. So when these guys arrived, you can see straight away that these are not authentic. So in hand, they were really heavy in comparison with the other Kobes that I have. The materials were just terrible. They're not really that good. And the insole is this, generic insole, while it should have been lunar in Kobe 10s. So I realized right away that I got fakes for these. I also tried them on, and they are true to size, but they feel a bit bulky. They don't hug your feet like what Kobes usually do, and they still don't hug your feet even though you crank the laces up. The cushioning was non-existent. They just felt really stiff. The outsole came off as well for these guys, so I had to re-glue them. But the traction though, surprisingly, was really good. They really bit to the surface that I used them on. So in my opinion, they can probably be used off-court, but I wouldn't suggest to play in them, especially for me and other players that have problems with their knees. It would be best to avoid these guys altogether. The tags are quite convincing though. They look like tags from authentic Nikes, but I'm not really an expert on that. So some people might be able to detect that. So those were my 2 cents to avoid being finessed into buying fake shoes. If you have other tips and tricks, please share them in the comments below. And if I missed anything, please let me know as well. So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.